Good morning. Another snowy morning in Chicagoland. Is this looking familiar yet? We're in the midst of a big snowstorm. They are saying right now, it probably started around midnight, I guess. It was raining before that. And we have gotten about an additional 4.5 inches so far, but it's supposed to continue to snow throughout the day at the rate of an additional inch an hour. So this should be interesting. The roads are not plowed, and this road looks like it hasn't even been driven on. It's 6:40 a.m. So we're headed to work, of course, because why would we work from home? There's just too much to do that it's hard to work from home when all my stuff is there at the office. And I tried to bring some stuff home for work, but it's just easier, so I'll probably go in this morning. Oh, anti-lock brakes, thank you God. And then try to head out early. We'll see how many of my colleagues are there. I shouldn't be the only one because it's, if it had been afoot by the time we woke up this morning, I'd turn this heater down here, that would be a different story, but so far it's only 4 or 5 more inches, so I do expect my people should be there, and I'll send them home early. I hate to do it, but we need to work. There's a lot going on. So today is February 2nd, and I thought, I'll show you. Oh, jeez, look at that huge pile in the road. I thought I would tell you, or show you this video of the drive. It might be interesting to see the snow, and of course, I'll tell you a story while we drive. So I was listening to on my my Apple Music. And one of the songs on there was the Justin Bieber Peaches remix with Ludacris and Snoop Dogg. And there's a line in that lyric that says, "Wonder where she learned to bounce her booty. What's the secret? I bet her mama went to Freaknik." And it reminded me of the time I went to Freaknik in the late 90s, unintentionally. It's a funny story, but it's crazy, but it's real. So you might be wondering, but Scott, what's Freaknik? Well, I'm glad you asked. So in honor of Black History Month, I'll give you a little history lesson from the best of my knowledge of what I've read or seen of what it was supposed to be, and it morphed into something totally different. But evidently in the 80s it began as really like a picnic event for kids that went to historically black universities, and this in Atlanta, and there was clubs that students could join that corresponded with their home states or locations. So it's like if you were from Chicago and you were attending a college, historically black college there in Atlanta, there would be a club for Chicago students if they wanted to join that, or Washington D.C. or wherever, Iowa, that kind of thing. So in around spring break time, most kids would either go on spring break, I'm assuming, like I did, or they would go home, that kind of a thing. So there were always apparently those students who were unable to go home or go anywhere, and they would stay at college. And so for those who weren't able to make it home, they organized some sort of a picnic. And when it started, that song "Le Chic" or "Freak," from the I guess it was from the 80s, because it was in the 80s, was popular. So for some reason, they named the event Freaknik. So it wasn't a big thing. It was just at a local park in the beginning, but as years went on, from what I've read, it got bigger and bigger until we got to the late 90s when I found myself there. Now this is going to be hard to get going because of the whatever this is, anti-spin thing. It makes you go extremely slow while it tries not to spin the tires until you catch some grip. Okay, we're going. So in the late 90s, I was a high school student, and my parents had a home in Florida, a vacation home, and they decided they were going to buy a new car to leave in Florida at the house. And they wanted to drive it down. They'd prefer to fly, but it was pretty cool because they said, why don't you and your friend come down for spring break and you can drive the car? And I think, they knew that it would be a awesome road trip for a couple of young guys to, who had only had their licenses for a short while at that point. And of course we were like thrilled to be taking like a road trip. And of course, the drive from Chicago to South Florida takes a couple of days, especially we weren't all that experienced as drivers. So, driving 10-hour days was a lot. So we were gonna, take a couple of days and all that. So my parents had this brand new car that they wanted us to drive there, and it was a big black sedan, Mercedes sedan, and it was extremely gas thirsty. It was, it was the biggest engine that they made. I believe it was a V12, because it was, it got something like 12 miles to the gallon or something like that in city driving, and not great even. It's very hard to get going here, excuse me. So we were always stopping for gas, and we had all kinds of stuff loaded in the car because my parents were like, wow, bring all this stuff down that we wouldn't normally be able to bring flying, and to have at the house and things like that. So the trunk full, the back seat full, there was enough room for the two of us. So we're a day in, and driven through Atlanta, it's like the traffic is always seems to be horrible. So we pull off. Traffic is a nightmare, and traffic is even more of a nightmare where we're pulling off. We're trying to go to a gas station. It is a zoo. I mean, people everywhere. The streets flooded with, people. They're on motorcycles, and then we're looking. The people are naked. Like, what in the world is going on? There are people on motorcycles that are naked. It is like the ultimate, I guess, party. Everyone wasted. Everyone, like, out of their mind. This was the beginning of the showing off culture, where they were just like cruising apparently up and down the streets in these blinged out cars. This was when the TVs in the cars were starting to gain popularity, and of course the sound systems were just blasting. But the nakedness was what was the most surprising. It was like, wow. So we're feasting our eyes on that and trying to pay attention and all the craziness that's going on, and we're just like, abort the mission. Let's just I don't think we're gonna be able to go anywhere here. I mean, there was so much traffic and so many people out on foot and everything like that. So we're just trying to inch along, and all of a sudden, whack, we get plowed into from behind. And it's a naked guy on a motorcycle. And he's wasted out of his mind, drunk, high, I have no idea. And immediately he's furious because he just effed up his bike. And like I said, there's all these throngs of people around. So the people start, this guy is like pissed and like cussing and everything like that. And it wasn't our fault. I mean, we were just driving along, inching along in traffic, and he comes flying up and plows into the back of our car. Well, the people who were all also drunk and everything, they start getting pissed, and they're looking in the window and they see us, and they immediately start screaming and yelling and, get out of the car, look what you did to this guy, that kind of a thing. And it's like, we didn't do anything, but it's like you become immediately clear that there's not going to be like any explaining, and we just got scared. Like they started like hitting on the window, telling you to get out of the car. Now this car had double pane windows, so they were trying to break the windows later on, and it wasn't breaking, and they were shouting stuff, Arab bastards, most people think that I'm Arab, and I have a little Mizrahi heritage. So it's amazing how genes work, though. I mean, it's like my sister, my mother, they look nothing like me at all. And anyways, that's neither here nor there. So we get scared, and we're not sure what to do. I mean, here we are, like, teenagers, and then it comes to me. It's like, you're in a 400 horsepower car. Just go, So as soon as a little bit of space opens up, I start kind of like revving the engine, because people are all around, and I think they realized, if I wanted to, I could mow your asses down. Don't play with me. And they just kind of let us through eventually, but there was all kinds of damage to the car. Of course, we never got out to look. It was just get us to the exit ramp as soon as possible. These people are on some other shit. This was not like a fun party atmosphere. This was a mob scene. So, apparently, that's what it really had morphed into, this event. And that would have been the final few years that this event was even allowed to continue on, because it was then canceled, because it had turned into it had gone from what was supposed to be a picnic for college students to people coming from all over the country. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people to attend this. It became a haven for sexual assault and looting and crime and stuff like that. Very sadly, because that was not what this was intended to be. But I attended Freaknik. Probably the last person you would imagine that would. But it's funny when you hear it in a song and you hadn't thought of that in forever, and you immediately go back to, oh my God, I remember that. And that was like a part of history, because when you Google it now, you see people, waxing nostalgic about the days of Freaknik and at the historically black colleges and things like that. And it's a shame that it turned into, I guess, what it did at the tail end of it. But it was crazy. It was wild, and it was out of control. But funny to look back on it now and remember that time. So the car, we made it to Florida with a big, huge story to tell. Of course, in those days, you had a built-in phone in the car, and it was like companies like Cellular One, Motorola, stuff like that were the cell phone. So it was, and I'm dating myself telling this story, but it was built into the console, like in the armrest would flip open, and there was a phone in there, and then on the dashboard it was like it was integrated to how you dialed it and stuff, and it was like pretty much like a house phone in the car with a cord. You dialed the number. I think it only had like a couple of memory slots, and the car was brand new, so I don't even know if any of the memory things were set. What were you going to do? There was no one to call. There was nothing to do. There was no police. It was just a sea of people. So your best bet was just to get... And of course, we were like so scared about, the car was completely messed up, and it's a new car, but of course my parents didn't give a damn. They were like, oh my God, thank God you're okay. That's the only thing that matters, and car can be replaced, and that's why we have insurance and everything like that. So then we had to, that was the other one. So then my dad had to call the insurance agent and explain, the damages to the car. And I think he was, worried about this other individual and who smashed into the back of the car, and if he's going to sue us. Well, I don't know how, you could sue us. So we were just, he drove into the back of us, but it happens all the time. I remember, and this is off the subject, but my dad was a victim in a chain reaction car crash years ago, and this crazy woman sued him. She was suing everyone, just sue. And the deepest pockets, of course, they try to sue who has the best and most insurance and all that. And she sued him. Now, she didn't really have any physical injuries, but that didn't stop her. She sued for like emotional damage, and this is a completely unrelated incident, but the insurance company were like, it's not really worth our time to send you, because he's like, well, send me an attorney, obviously. And they were like, well, it's not really worth our time and money to send an attorney for this case. So they didn't send any legal representation. And so there was a judgment awarded to this woman, a big one, because she claimed that because she was emotionally disturbed after she ran into him, and he was like car number 5 in a chain reaction pileup, that she couldn't have sex with her husband because she was emotionally damaged. And the idiotic judge in Illinois awarded her a judgment in the 6 figures. It was infuriating because there was nothing wrong with this stupid bitch. You just don't want to see someone profit off of something that was outrageous, and certainly wasn't, even if it was true, which it wasn't, even if it was, he didn't cause any kind of a damage. She plowed into him. He was like number 5, she was like number 6. Anyways, off the topic. But see how one memory just sparks another. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was the time we went to Freaknik and almost died. The car was totally screwed up. It had tons of damage. The back was all caved in. Couldn't open the trunk. There was all kinds of dents. I think they ripped the hood ornament clean off. Were hitting the car and all kinds of stuff. So terrible, but it makes for a good story. Anyways, thanks for joining me this morning on this snowy ride. Who knows if this will be the last snowy ride of the winter? Probably not. As a matter of fact, maybe we'll put it on the way home because it's supposed to snow at the rate of 1 inch an hour. We'll see if they have been out plowing at that point or not. So, if you haven't subscribed, it's not too late. If you have, welcome to the family. I love you for watching.